Today we need to get into several partners trending and what that's about. We also need to get into people saying that Suga apparently signed marriage papers and what's going on with that. And then we have some legal action taken with the label and what that is about. So hey Dumplings, it's Dave. Decide hater or not, make sure you're subscribed with the notification bell on. Make sure you join us fangirling on Patreon with some free content on Saturdays now, and let's go. This was a very interesting case because I'm very confused about what's going on now. I'm not a lawyer and I'm definitely not one in Korea, so I can't really tell you what the laws are. Recently there was a lawsuit case that I think definitely deserves to be looked into. If you aren't aware, the label, currently HYBE, is looking into taking legal action on anyone that is really having and leaving defamatory or really bad comments. Well, apparently someone from that label had targeted someone who had left really bad comments about SSERAFIM, and they were able to take legal action by going to the police and submitting, I guess, a cease and desist or something. And I'm not even sure if that's what happened because I think it was just straight to court. And the reason why I now say that Korea is very different from the US in terms of legal action is because in the US, this would not be something that you would be able to do. And although most people watching this video are probably from the US, however, a lot of people seem to, when they enjoy K-pop, not know exactly how the US systems work. And they tend to think that the rest of the world kind of works the same way as what they tend to study, which is Korean culture. Nothing wrong with this, but of course now I can explain how some things kind of work here in the US a little bit differently. First off, a company can send a cease and desist and they don't even have to have any legal rights to make that letter. Meaning if I just didn't like what you did, I can have a lawyer draft up and make up some arguments and then just send it. And then if the tactic doesn't work to scare the person into taking down the content they put up or whatever it is, then nothing can really be taken after that. That is, of course, if the offender didn't do anything actually wrong. Now, if the offender did do something wrong, then a cease and desist would be sent, and if the offender decides to delete the content or remove any bad things that were said online, then it kind of just ends there. You can't really take that person to court because they already fixed it. So this is something that of course seems to be very different in Korea, where it seems like labels and companies can kind of go for the full extent without needing to have a cease and desist first. So this person who insulted SSERAFIM apparently said some really bad things about the group, such as things that they didn't like the group member, or they didn't think that the group should be a group, or that the specific idol should be a group. These specific bad things were never mentioned, so I actually don't know how bad they were. But according to the person who is being sued, they said that the comments were just things that they said that the idols shouldn't be idols. And apparently these comments can be tracked by police officials who can then locate whoever left those comments and track down the house to have the police knock on their door or something. I don't know. The person who left the comment said that they are receiving the full extent of the law and they are really getting punished for leaving these types of comments. Basically ended their note by saying that if you have anything negative and any negative comments to say about a celebrity, you should probably just keep it to yourself. And what would be really interesting here, and I'm not saying that it's true, but what would be interesting is if the label had the alleged commenter kind of write this post and then say that if you write this post, then make yourself an example that they would stop the legal action. And it would actually be a really smart thing if the label were to do that, because then people would read it and be like, oh my god, this is horrible. I don't want to be like them. Stop leaving hateful comments. So I kind of hope that that's the case, because it seems like whoever is leaving these comments probably won't say anything negative ever again. And so it seems like they've learned their lesson. And I think it's a lesson that's worth noting, is that anytime you do something online that you don't like or leave a comment about it, don't say anything awful about that person, because those things not only can come back to you if you're in Korea, but these are also things that can come back to you in ways of karma too. And karma is an interesting thing, right? Our boys do good deeds, so good things happen to them. And people get excited about the music they release, which I think is the ultimate good karma that an artist could have. Recently, BTS released something interesting. It seems like this was recorded at the time the Life Goes On official music video was recorded. But basically, they did a forest version, and it was a version where I think all the members were holding a phone or holding a DSLR or some sort of camera, and they were singing to the camera or lip syncing to the camera. As far as it looked from what I saw, I don't think there was any editing. I felt like it was just like a very one take, very casual, very nice, and I don't know what their intentions was with this clip. I have no idea if they had intended initially to just have it released on their break or when they're enlisted, or was there an intention to do something with this clip, but then they couldn't figure out what to do with it and just held on to it until now. But people were very excited about this, and what ended up trending on Twitter shows how excited people were about this. One group of people was tweeting about Jikook, and the other was trending Taekook. Now, every time one trends, the other one will trend as a way to kind of rival the other opinion. And in this case, we got to see them both trend at the same time. This is coming from the fact that this music video that I just spoke about had a moment where JK was with both V and Jimin. And so people, every time they saw JK with Jimin, were trending Jikook, and then if they saw JK with V, they were trending Taekook. And there were a lot of people that were saying that they hadn't seen the two together in a really long time, and they just really enjoyed watching these moments. Now, there are people, of course, who ship the two in a fun way. And I think it's cute, and if they're just doing it for the sake of their own fantasy, I'm going to say that's okay, and I fully support that. However, those who use it as ammunition in the future to mock the other group or to just trend for the sake of the other group, I don't like that, because every time one trends, the other will trend even if the other doesn't make sense. For example, if a moment where Jimin and JK were together, obviously Jikook would trend, but at the same time Taekook would trend just to trend, just so that the attention can be taken away from the other. That gets into things that I don't really like. Be peaceful, be calm, and just enjoy your own fantasy if that's what you want to do, but don't try to start to attack others. People were also talking about something that I thought was absolutely hilarious, because apparently Suga had marriage papers and people had a lot to say about this. If you're not aware, a little while ago there was this trend going around, or this meme that was like "marry me" to Suga. This trend was just supposed to be something funny that the community did on the live streams because they would find it so hilarious, and they would just do this specifically if Suga wasn't there. Like, that was the most hilarious thing to do, because then the members would just be like, where is he? Before this fully blew up, there were some people asking for Suga's hand in marriage, and he jokingly said that he would marry them if they presented all the documents and all that sort of stuff. And apparently this alleged fan had at one point bought the documents and shared it with him. And a lot of people don't know if he actually signed the documents or not, but he definitely found it absolutely hilarious. Most people think that he would have signed it, or at least playfully signed it or fake signed it, just because the members like to keep their word, and if they're going to say something even jokingly, I'm sure they're going to do it. However, who knows how legit these marriage papers are, and a marriage actually isn't legally binding until two people sleep with each other. So chances are this marriage document would never be legally binding if he wasn't going to consummate or sleep with a fan, which he likely wasn't going to do. Imagine the scandal if he did. I'm sure none of the members have an actual problem with dating or being with people in their community. However, the hate comments or whatever would probably be overwhelming. I think it's very cute that he said that, and I think a lot of people in the community really love that he said that, because it feels very fun, and I think it makes people feel like they have a chance. All they have to do is just gather the papers. And hey, if he comes back from the military and he is still single after coming back from the military, then make sure you present him with some marriage documents and get that marriage going. We all know military men like to get married fast, so maybe he's changed. Maybe he's ready to settle down. I'm joking, of course. Also, I would imagine this would get a lot of people really upset and angry at him, because they would be upset that they hadn't presented him with marriage papers first. But this is obviously all a joke, and I feel like sometimes I don't or shouldn't have to say that, but I do, because there are a lot of people who sometimes don't think that these things are a joke, and don't think that when the members say these things, it's for the sake of just being funny, because they think that the person who said it is also joking. But the person who said it could be joking, but the people in the community don't think that they're joking. So then the kind of crazy people in the community think that it's a real request, and then they will jump on it. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Patreon for more videos. Link down below. Thanks, just leave a comment right here. Love you. Bye.